the more you do different things, the more you can go, oh, that wave angle and light bouncing off that cloud, and there's no direct light hitting the wave. It's the same as the angle of a soft box that I'll 3/4 light someone to take a portrait. Like, it's all the same.
Yep.
The more you do it, the more you can recognize those different relationships.
Trent Mitchell, welcome to the Soul Sessions, mate. Thanks so much for taking the time to be on here.
Yeah, mate, thanks for having me.
Mate, it's amazing. Yeah, look, I'm a big fan of your work, and I know a lot of the people watching this and that follow my stuff to see this podcast will be massive fans of your work. But yeah, I guess one of the main reasons I started this podcast is just to get to know the people behind the incredible images. So yeah, that's what this is all about. And maybe just to kick it off, if you can just sort of take us back to your humble beginnings, where it all began, maybe like where you grew up and how you got a camera in your hand in the first place.
Sure thing, mate. Yeah, I grew up on the northern beaches of Sydney in a little suburb called Mona Vale. Grew up there, kind of bodyboarding heaps. Had a little tight-knit bodyboard community, which is sick fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I was always interested in art and design at school, and I'm talking high school.
Yep.
Yeah, so high school kind of was the first time when I picked up a camera with intention. So I was right back into painting.
Okay.
And I was painting seascapes, and a big part of it was documenting your process, like with a visual diary and whatnot. And I was using camera to take pictures of these landscapes or seascapes at the time, land-based images, but of the ocean as references. And that was kind of like my first attempt to use photographs other than like a point and shoot or whatever.
Yes.
Disposable camera or whatever.
Okay,
I've got to get the headland here, the rocks there, a splash, you know, or like I'm gonna get in and get textures, or show the water coming up on rocks, like all that kind of thing. Yeah. So I did that, and then kind of let it go for ages. I didn't really do anything with the camera until like well after school.
Okay.
Yeah. Bought a camera off a guy called Dean Wilmot, an old manual camera and housing. There weren't many people on northern beaches shooting.
Yeah. Yep.
We only had a couple of mates doing it. And just kind of got curious with the camera and spent a lot of time shooting landscapes, and kind of took my art background into photography. And I remember thinking, I want to be a landscape photographer of the ocean. And there was but there were a couple of guys that photographs at the time that really kind of got my juices flowing. And that was a local guy called Andrew Kidman and John Frank. And Ted Grambo. And I'd seen their work, and I was like, oh, you can do that with a camera. Wow, that's cool. And so I took kind of like a little bit of influence from that, like, and then influence from painting and a Japanese artist, Hokusai.
The big
painted the Great Wave. And had a design background, and all these things were kind of fusing, and just spent a lot of time in the water just trying to capture waves as they were, you know.
Definitely.
Beautiful morning light, and man,
that's fascinating.
That's how it all started.
For sure. Was that like so like the art stuff, did that sort of come from your like parents' background or anything like that? Like where's the sort of art influence come from?
Yeah, so mate, my mum's really clever. She'd always be painting or making stuff. Kind of crafty in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And then dad was an architect and he did product design. So I was always around like the creative process, whether it's,
Yeah.
I look in the spare room and mum's painting stuff. And then I hear dad coming home from work talking about design, going to manufacturers and this and that. And then
Yep.
doing photo shoots with his products and in fashion magazines and all that kind of thing. So it was always around me.
Yep. Yep.
So that kind of influence is kind of really deep seated into like how I was brought up.
For sure. Yeah. And was it always probably just for you going to be something to do with the ocean, like initially? Because obviously if you were taking those first photos as just references for your art, but then when you got a camera, you pretty much got a housing like almost straight away. Was it you wanted
I was in the ocean boogieing. I'm like 12, I think. But like trying to ride waves probably.
Yep.
With my mates.
Mm-hmm.
Before that was just like on holidays in between the flags or whatever, like everyone else. But But yeah, like when I was 12 or 13, I was like, oh, mum, dad, can I go for an early before school? And they're like, what? Surfing before school? And I'm like, oh yeah, Jake is. And so like I want to.
Yep.
And I hadn't been in the water at those times of day before then.
Yep.
Always like mid-morning, mid-arvo, like with the family or whatever.
Yep.
And I just saw this place in a whole different way. And I just remember like so many different moments on rock ledges and stuff. And I'm like seeing all these things and experiencing all that light and wind and energy and stuff. And I don't know, I just trip out at it. I love it. Like I just really felt like it's like where I wanted to be all the time.
Amazing. I was going to ask you that. So you think that was something that was something that was sort of intrinsically there before you picked up a camera to try and capture it? You were already seeing.
Yeah, I was trying to paint it before. I tried to take a photo of it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And draw it, but I couldn't get it. Photos. Mm-hmm. And I would never really finish stuff and be happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
From a painting perspective.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'd binge shit or get real had a real. I don't know where it came from, but just probably a bit too critical of myself.
Okay.
I wouldn't finish my paintings, but with photography, I like the fact that you could take a photo and it was either good or bad.
Yep.
So it was either you got it or you didn't, and then you move forward.
Okay. Yeah, that's fascinating. So with your art, because it's a creative process, you're doing a bit at a time, then like you said, you might not like finalize it or something because you might get too critical, but that the photography part gave you that instant kind of
well, to a degree,
I
started with like not as immediate as now, like where you're taking
for sure.
It's like take a photo, send it to the lab, get it back. Could be a week or longer, but and then you go again. For sure. Might even take like a couple of months to finish a roll of film because I was a tight ass. Like, like seriously, I was like, But
So how much is that? How much is that a blessing versus a curse? Like if you're critical of sort of your work, or like because if you're critical of your artwork, then I'm assuming maybe you're also a bit self-critical of your like the photographs that come back. So then is it a matter of like I've just got to go out and chase it again and do the next thing? So therefore that's the thing that drives you to do it. But does it create a frustration level of satisfaction?
Like reflecting on like how over that time I've been doing this for quite some time now.
Of course.
So I think you need that to get good. And I did that with my ocean related work for 10 or so years, and I got comfortable with shooting and felt like I wasn't shooting a lot over that, like I would sometimes not take photographs for a few months. So I felt like I had to be critical because I wasn't doing it a lot. If that makes sense.
For sure.
Fast forward to now, I'm happy to kind of be okay with not I understand how rare really good photographs are.
Yeah.
So I'm not
That's really
as
interesting.
hard on myself if I don't nail it, you know?
Yep.
It
Yep.
could, because I think people, especially with ocean stuff, you're like, oh, it's me. Like, I didn't get that or whatever.
Yep.
And then ocean's doing 95% of the work.
Totally. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You deal with
can't be
nature. So
fault.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Unless you're really like really getting the basics wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not hard on myself with water photography at all. Like, it's an
Yep.
absolute joy and
Yep.
pleasure
Yeah.
to do it.
Amazing. Yeah.
And it like participate in it. So for me, it's like relaxed time.
Yep. Yeah,
And
for sure.
but yeah, early days for sure. I was just trying to get better, and
I get better. Yeah.
I've looking like I like to think that the chase is like the fun part that I remember, and the
Yep.
photographs are just like a nice little souvenir to take
Yeah.
away the experience. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Was there any moments in those early days that you remember that was like, was there any, I guess, specific photographs or sessions? Was there an image where you kind of like maybe your vision starting to like
Yeah,
it's starting to translate it?
for sure. A black and white grainy abstract kind of wave photo from indicators from the Central Coast.
Yep.
I shot a roll of film out there, and I got one shot, and it just felt so good when I took it.
Yep.
I rarely get this feeling, and I knew it was really good.
Yep.
I felt it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had that instinctual feeling that, oh yeah, I got that.
Yep.
I filmed back from the lab, and I was like, oh, it exceeded
Yeah.
expectations. And I submitted that photograph to heaps of magazines.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first image that I'd submitted to magazines that no one turned it down. Like,
Wow. Yeah.
so I was like, okay, I'm doing something right here. Like,
Yeah.
it feels good.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, like, while I was doing that stuff, I always had the intent to make a book. With a design background and whatnot. I was always working with photographs in a finished way. So it would be like, I always had that end use in mind, not just taking a picture and then that's it. Like, oh, take the next picture.
Yep.
So I guess what I'm getting at is eventually, think I probably 8 or 9 years down the track, that photograph became the cover of my first book.
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, that one photo is kind of, when I published that book, it kind of chasing the curve.
Yeah.
I think anyone had set out to self-publish in that way before, in the seascape wave space.
Yeah.
And feel like, yeah, that changed my career as a surf photographer. And then kind of, yeah, that I feel like, yeah, there was a bit of shift there, and a lot of things rolled out after that.
100%. Yeah, for sure. Can you take us back a little bit, just to sort of like, I guess, when you first started getting into it? Because I'm super interested in these type of conversations. For people, a lot of people see the end photos on, social media and just think it's all just been like, just taking a few nice photos and that's it, kind of thing. So so when you first started out, I guess just even in your career, you were you said you were a designer or photo editor. Was that the first part before you started shooting?
Yeah. So I went, yeah, absolutely, man. I went, I did graphic design, and then that wave taught that single image opened the door up at Surfing Life and Riptide magazine.
Yeah.
Started conversations, and I was like, oh, I do design, like, here's my portfolio if there's ever a job going. And the creative director, Graham Murdoch, who eventually started White Horses and whatnot.
Yep.
He was like, "Oh, thanks for your portfolio." You know,
Yeah.
love your work. And I was just like, yeah, heard it all before,
Yeah.
whatever. And then
Yeah.
but he was being super genuine, and I took it the wrong way in my mind. And yeah, that door opened up to getting a design job at Riptide.
Yeah, amazing. Wow.
And I was just at the desk for a few years with Nick
Yep.
Lawrence.
Yep.
We're making mags, which is pretty fun. Sick, like the funnest workplace.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And just being around that. And Nick helped nurture, like he, could take photos, and if we needed anything last minute for the mag, he really nurtured that side of my skill set.
So are you shooting simultaneously at this time? Are you out shooting ocean photos yourself?
Yeah. I've been shooting my mates prior, like guys on the northern beaches like Brendan Newton. I occasionally shoot the Play Brothers or whatever, and just found my mate Matt Witter and a bunch of other mates, Tate Martin, Pete Moore, who's now a crazy talented director.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was always shooting, and I was at the mags, and then I jumped over to photo editing at Surfing Life when digital came on. And I was kind of like the only one in the building that had photographic experience. And digital confused the shit out of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And because of my design background, I was like, oh, it's not that hard. Like, I already know color through design. Like, and it was a small leap for me to go, oh yeah, I can do that.
Yep.
So it was just really nice timing, like really.
Yeah.
And so it just seemed like a smooth transition, went straight into that. And then I was just building up contacts, and I was shooting stuff here and there, and got my savings in order. One day, just had enough of the kind of like the magazine thing, and got some really nice encouragement off Ted Grambo.
Cool.
He saw potential in me that I didn't, and he's like, dude, get out of here, go take photos. What are you doing?
Wow. Amazing.
And I just
So being that you were working in those magazines, I guess there's like two questions. So you're seeing a bunch of professional, like I'm guessing the staff photographers' shots or whatever, like you're seeing all those shots all the time you're editing. So did that help you with photography education, number one, like just seeing different types of images that people were shooting and getting published? And totally. I guess then the second part to that, being that you were in those like magazines, was there ever a point in time when part of your mind was like, that's a path that you would go down as a photographer? Because obviously your career now is a lot more like artistic and creative than necessarily like straight like surf magazine shots. Was there a time when you were sort of going, oh, I could be a staff photographer for one of these magazines, and then that evolved? Or
to be honest, I didn't really know what. I didn't really have a goal.
Okay.
No. I left with the intention that I guess what fired me up the most is just being around guys like Ted and Andrew Shield and stuff. And just how they'd come into the office, talk story about where they've been and what they've done. And I was just like, these guys know how to live. Like, what everyone doing in this building is fucking fun. And we're making it work, and lots of people are enjoying it. I'm at a desk, and and it's cool to be a part of, but only for so long until you go, I want to go and do that too. Like, and again, Ted just opened door for me, like unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me a recommendation to Rip Curl one
Mm-hmm.
time, and then all of those things coincided when I launched my book.
Yep.
Social media just come on pretty strong.
Yep.
Yeah, and it just felt like there are quite a few things combined that help that transition be smooth and effortless.
Yep. So what did those? So then you go into you've done your time there, and you're like, you've got all this encouragement, and that's like amazing. Then you go on
and
to go
information, like you said, with all the photographers.
Yep.
I mean, I felt like I was pretty confident with operating a camera, taking photos,
Cool.
getting exposures right, and
Yep.
delivering or whatnot. But the best part about working in the mags was, I'm still good friends with a lot of people that I'm, became friends with at that time, and that's going back like at least, I'm going to age myself pretty quickly here, but 15 years, and we're still friends. So I think that was the best part about it. It's like, and I always felt like just like being collaborative with people. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like
for sure.
brief photographers and understand what mags need to. And
Yep,
I feel
definitely.
like that was a bit of a secret weapon. Like I knew that, good, strong magazine articles, you needed to tell stories, and it wasn't just about the action.
Yeah.
And I immediately knew that, I need to get good at portraits. I need to get good at pullback lineups. I need to get good at action. I need to get good at all these different, product photography. Like if you're on a trip, and even fashion for lifestyle photography, well, yeah. So photographers have to do a lot, hey? Like,
100%.
I mean, you can be a one-trick pony and just shoot, one thing, but I don't think, storytelling is kind of where it's at.
Yeah.
Whether it's in a single frame or across multiple frames, and that's probably the best thing that the magazine environment taught me.
Yeah. 100%. No, it's fascinating. You've kind of answered a little bit of it, but so then you leave to go and be freelance. So with all of this, even with like contacts and sort of knowing people, once you kind of go out and you freelance, like that's got a level of dauntingness to it, and that you're on your own then. So what was that process like for you? Were you like out, like was it initially shooting stuff to send back to like the magazines, like more typical like surf photography, or how did that sort of part of your career work?
I was mixing, like doing freelance design work, going on editorial trips for mags, get the odd trip with Rip Curl, which would, jack up the bank account balance.
Yep.
And then I was just doing whatever I could to not be in an office, really.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, and
yeah, well, that's interesting. So was it all like when you went out for it? So was it all surf related initially, or was it a bit of you had to sort of go out and just get a bunch of everything to get work? And
bunch of everything, man. So I picked up a couple of jobs for like sport magazines, portraits, and even like newspaper commissions, and like all these odd, weird jobs. Hey, design work, but yeah, and then I get the odd catalog shoot, the odd, just a full a mix. And at the same time, I had heaps of spare time to practice and do test shoots and learn. So when I wasn't making money, I was practicing like crazy.
Amazing.
Because I just wanted to make it work.
For sure. Well, I've spoken to like people about this before, and it was very similar. Like, so when I got into like photography as well, like I got a lot of advice, or I got like specific advice, sorry, just to say like shoot like everything and anything, just because it's also going to build up your skill set as well. You know, I mean, I think it's like you were saying before, that to be a surf photographer isn't just, you know, it's not a one trick thing. You got so many elements to it. So doing all these, like a variety of jobs, puts you in a lot of different situations, both technically, dealing with people, the style of like stuff you're shooting. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that's going to overall like help you as a photographer if you're doing that variety of work.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I also like that, you know, you're doing all of these different things. So you're understanding your gear more, you're understanding light more for different situations, and you can apply it to small like things or big things, or
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just learning lighting and all sorts of different things. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fascinating, and it's great to hear that. Like, I mean, clearly, like you understand it all, but I find that, like, because I do a bit of like teaching as well, and I just find that maybe there's, especially in the surf photography, action sports photography kind of world, maybe it's just with the advent of some of the cameras and stuff that exist now, like even just in with like GoPros and whatever, I find there's maybe less of a desire to learn the technical aspects of the camera inside out to be able to, you know, control it in a bunch of different situations like really quickly, or understand the way that like lights hitting a subject, that kind of thing. It's like not just about, you know, for example, with like ocean, it's not just about a wave breaking, but it's about, you know, what angle and area can you take it from, what light can you shoot it in, like if the light changes, how quickly can you like adjust your settings to get the desired result, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it's like how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? I like the simplicity of GoPros is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And they've definitely got their uses, like great uses. But yeah, it's kind of when I was referring to light and understanding how the light's operating and stuff, and you know, it's all the same. When the more you do different things, the more you can go, oh, that wave angle and light bouncing off that cloud, and there's no direct light hitting the wave. It's the same as the angle of a softbox that I'll 3/4 light someone to take a portrait.
Yep.
It's all the fucking, like, it's all the same.
Yep.
But the more you do it, the more you can recognize those different relationships with life and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? Like, you can keep it pretty straight and simple and just go, yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
And that's fine. Like,
that's cool. Yep.
I'm a full nerd. Like, I love cameras and I love geeking out on what's possible with the camera. Yeah.
Yep. That's amazing. So how do you think your like ocean photography evolved, like in a creative sense? So you kind of mentioned, you touched on before that maybe things were sort of simultaneous, because I've seen, I guess just where I'm coming from, I've seen photos of yours, like, you know, like Mick Fanning in a barrel, perfectly crisp, would go on the cover of any surfing magazine ever, right through to say you're like in an Atlas series, for example, which is super creative and conceptual and that kind of thing. So did it start at one, and then the more and more you shot, the more you wanted to get creative? Was it sort of always there, and it was just a matter of you getting to a point where you found that, you know, the way to express, or I guess to publish that creative outlet?
Yeah. Do you mean that specifically, that body of work, or
Well, I mean, I guess more even just that style, like even your tessellated series, like there's a creativity that you've obviously looked at a phenomenon and gone, I want to like capture this in a certain way, and there's a different like thought process to that than, I guess, a sharp, you know, thousandths of a second photo of a surfer in a barrel kind of thing. That seems like something that you would have seen a lot by being an editor, and then over here you've gone, this is something that's my vision, like maybe someone else can't see that, I want to be creative.
I guess that all comes down to like just going kind of stuck to what I love about photography, and probably working on series rather than single images.
Yep.
is how I like to operate these days. Like it, yeah, I've gone out and chased a single image enough that it, yeah, I'm just kind of like I've done that.
Yeah.
So I like creating cohesive bodies of work to tell a
Yep.
story, whether
Yeah.
or not it's like you know, I don't know, an assignment, or
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
real, like some weird tap thought that I have, and I just want to create photos that explain that.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's the stuff that keep. I mean, when I don't have a surf assignment or something, but I still love going in the water.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really using my spare time to just go shoot, say, Snapper Rocks or
Yes. Yep.
which is just down the road for me. Like I'd rather go for a body surf or bodyboard or
Yep.
ride a foamy or something, and then wait for a cool idea to come, and then I'll just work on that idea.
Yeah.
Rather than, yeah. And I think the more you do like creative work,
Mm-hmm.
meaning like even my advertising stuff I do,
Yep.
all the advertising ideas and everything's idea driven.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that those guys do that they don't just do shit because it looks good.
Yeah. Yep.
There's always an idea behind it, and and there's always creativity driving it, and that's what I like to do. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. So that's
Yeah.
why I do those kinds of things, and the contrast of that is, yeah, like I get like Ripco or Mick will give us a call and go, hey, I've got these boardies to shoot. Can you come shoot them? And those photos have to be sharp, clean.
Yes. Yeah.
Go on a light box to sell board shorts.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a personal project, you know.
Yep.
I
Yep.
can't go, oh yeah, what if we shoot it like black and white and
Yeah. Yeah.
on the film and then slow shutter with a stop ND and back from over there? Like, shut up, Trent, you weirdo.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, 100%.
Like, it's
definitely.
That's why I do those personal projects, because you can do whatever the heck you want.
Yep, for sure. So with your personal project stuff, well, you even just mentioned before that sometimes you just go and shoot. So how much are you, I guess, just shooting for like exploration and just, to find something creative? How much of it are you conceptualizing beforehand and then going to seek a certain thing?
Yeah. Well, the most recent thing is just going, like, I haven't shot a water-based project since Inner Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still kind of working on the tessellated sea stuff. I haven't quite got what I wanted yet.
Okay. Yep.
But the tessellated seas thing was more about like, I used to go to that place when I was a kid and ride bodyboard there.
Yep.
Just feels like home.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember seeing a picture of it at a friend's house. And then I was up there one day and I looked at it again. I was like, fuck, that is really interesting. Like, I really want to just put my spin on it.
Yep.
And because so there's something, and it's really personal. Like, I put hundreds or if not thousands of hours out on those waves. So there's that kind of thing that didn't really take much thought. It was like right there.
But just as a side note on that, is your choice to shoot that, now just hearing your background, is your choice to shoot that slow shutter something that comes from your like painting at all? Does it feel more painterly? Yep.
Yeah. There's a painter called Turner, and his stuff is super influential for.
Yeah.
It's like really atmospheric and no detail. It's just like all atmosphere, you know.
Yeah, amazing. Yep.
And that's, I don't want to visually represent something as it is, like that, like
Yep.
just want to take a whole bunch of photos that are really crap, and there might be one that you just can't even imagine how it would come out.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And so then, like, I mean, as you said, it might have been like a little while, but like during that time when you're developing these things, are there times when you just went and said, I'm just going to go down and shoot and sort of see what happens, and then maybe things happen that you discover and you're like, okay, that's something that I can now creatively expand on because it's happened in a moment? Or is there and equally, I guess, is there things that you just have in your mind and you're like, now I've got to go and try and create this with a camera?
Yeah, for sure. So I can directly relate that to the body surfing inner atlas stuff that I did. I was kind of like shooting a different thing and for a while. And I kind of got hints of like, I didn't know why I was shooting it, to be honest. I was just experimenting with different filters and films and stuff. And I just kind of had one of those things. So I've been just doing this stuff just through pure curiosity. And and sometimes I'll just go shoot to get myself out of like a creative rut. Like, because shooting the ocean can get real repetitive. And I don't like that. That's why I left an office job.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you kind of like, anyway, I was just shooting all this stuff, and then I was looking at these pictures and I was shooting a bunch of other stuff on the side, and I was like, oh, what if I do that together? And then these two bodies of work came together, and it's like, oh, now it all makes sense. And then you combine those two things together, and then you get something new. And it's like, for a while there, I was like getting these photographs, and like, I'd never, like, I don't know how to say it without sounding like I'm an absolute wanker, but I was getting photos that I've never seen before.
100%. It's the truth.
Like, and I was coming into shore, looking at the back of my screen, just going, what the fuck is this? And I just felt like I was completely in my own world for a couple of years doing that. Just like I'd seen like photos of fish like that. But not people, and not detailed and close, and just raw and weird. And I was like,
that's fascinating, because that was one in particular I was super intrigued about, because I like, you're obviously very like artistically minded, but it was sort of hard to grasp how you could conceptually see that image before taking it.
I didn't. So I'd been in one of these things where I was just shooting for the hell of it, just to work through like, what's my next thing? Like, I have to go out and do shit. I can't just, when I sit and think, it's not good. Like, it's not productive. And I have to shoot my way through things, I guess.
For sure.
So I was just doing stuff and then kind of trying to forget, you know, I live like, the beach is 200 meters that way. And it's a beautiful clear water beach, which is, I shot a lot of inner atlas just out the front. And I I was like, every day I go, I live at the most beautiful beach with the most insanely clear water. There's got to be something I can do here. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, and those thoughts every day, and then writing down shit, like, what do I love about photography? Exactly. Like,
Wow.
What are those things? Exactly. I'll write it down. Like,
Yep.
and then I'll go away from the list and then I'll come back and I'm like, okay, what am I most curious about? I write shit, fucking get it all down. So that's all stewing in my head. And
Yep.
one day I was just in the shower and I legit had one of those kind of like cliche lightning bolt moments. And I was like, fuck, that's it. Like, because I've been shooting all this neutral density filter film shit, slow shutter
Yep.
stuff, making the day look like moonlight.
Yep. Yep.
Because I don't like blue. Like out the front's the bluest shit you've ever seen. And
Yep.
I'm like, ugh.
It's not your thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love all the mood and like I get real jealous of like all the guys on the South Coast. They get all the beautiful light and the dark water and shit. I'm like, oh, yeah, right. That's like
living in this perfect paradise, clear blue water. They can't do anything with it.
Field day. Are you kidding me?
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so I was like, yeah, all those things combined, and I was like, and I don't know, I think I'd watched a body surfing movie or something recently, and I was really, I knew I wanted to do a portrait series for my next body of work.
Yep.
So that was on the list, portraits.
Yep.
That was like a non-negotiable thing. I'm like, I want to shoot portraits.
Yep.
With the water, and then one day I just went, fuck, that's it. Like, I want to shoot portraits of people in a moment where they're just all stripped back and raw and like pure emotion. You know, there's no preconcept, there's no bullshit around it. It's like people just like, oh, like flying through the air, like and yeah. So I was like, I remember I jumped out of the shower and I had these thoughts, jumped out of the shower and wrote it down on the fridge. I just wrote flash, slow shutter, black and white, body surfing.
Yep.
Quick on the fridge with a marker and then ran back into finish my shower. And I was like, fuck, I got it. Like, but I didn't know how I was going to shoot it.
Yep.
But I'm working it out. I had no idea how this shit was going to look.
Did you get something like on the first day that gave you hope or?
No, nothing.
Yeah.
I got sharp photos.
Yep.
I got like a few days of sharp photos and then, yeah, I wasn't happy. I'm like, I've seen all this shit before.
Yep.
Not what I want to get.
Yep.
Yeah, and over time I was then started to get stuff.
Yep.
And I was at the point where I was coming in to shore, like I said, and I was just flicking through shots, just shaking my head. Like, just what it's so hard to you can't visualize that stuff.
Yeah. So what's the process then? Because that's fascinating. Like, what's the process like from a mindset point of view then of then releasing stuff like that, like putting that stuff out into the world? Because that's a real specific artist thing, I think. Like you've mentioned a couple of times, you're seeing things you'd never seen before, or you were frustrated with shots that looked like something you'd seen before. So clearly what you're trying to create is something that's new and different and artistic. And so then whatever it is, like the confidence or whatever it is to put that out into the world and say, hey, here's my own creation and, you know, I'm showing it to everyone. Like, has that always just been something that you've been comfortable with? Is there ever any like uncertainty along that path?
Oh, definite uncertainty. Like the whole time I was pretty paranoid. Like with that stuff, I was thinking, shit, like maybe someone knows this idea. Fuck, I've got to get it out there as quick as I can. And like, but just always constantly like, do I leak it on social? Or do I keep it? Like, I feel so good in the moment. Like feels really good.
And
I was during that time, I was like quietly just put a couple in competitions, but I wouldn't put it on social media.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
And just to satisfy that urge,
Mm-hmm.
because I just wanted to share it. And I was like, fuck, I'll just share it anonymously through a competition and won't say anything.
Yep.
And then showed like a couple of close friends that I know and trust very
Mm-hmm.
well. And yeah, man, I was super doubtful. And I
Yep.
still to this day, I'm like, fuck, is it a bit too weird um
But you
yeah,
love the process, right?
but it's just like photos. So
Yeah.
like we get so worried about it. And I'm like, just came up with something that I really enjoyed shooting. Feels like nice, and that's what I like to do. So
Yeah, exactly.
and what my shit's just gonna live on a hard drive or in a folder full of film, and if I don't shoot it, share it?
Yeah.
What's the fucking point?
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I've read that somewhere that you mentioned that about, like the photo books and stuff. So this is I think you're a perfect person to ask it to. It's a fascinating question I've always had, and I don't know if I've been able to articulate it properly to different people, but the difference between the experience of taking photos, so I guess being in the moment of taking the actual images versus the final product in terms of like what ends up becoming, can you kind of explain those differences? I guess my kind of version of it, and I don't even know if I've thought it through properly yet, but it feels like maybe like the end product, for want of a better word, is filling your ego and the process is filling your soul a bit, in terms of like when you're actually in the moment taking photos, that's that bit that you really like, that makes me feel alive. And then when you've got the photo at the end, you're like, oh, that's a cool photo, but it ends up becoming something that you share, and immediately then it becomes something that becomes a reciprocal like feedback moment. Whereas when you're shooting the photos, there's no one else involved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely with shooting ocean work, it's just you and that moment, and you're surrounded by all this cool shit happening. Which leads to, you've got a lot of loaded emotions with that experience and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'd agree that, yeah, it is kind of like it goes from an experience into like an ego thing and not egotistical.
No.
But as in it goes from a shift into like ego. Yeah, it's ego.
Yep.
It's like my thing. I want
Yep.
to share. I want
Yeah.
feedback or whatever. But I mean,
but I 100% agree with your point where you're like, well, what if you're not sharing your work, what's it kind of doing anyway? You know what I mean?
There's the whole, like, you could take the Zen approach. The flip side of that is I always do this.
Yeah.
Like, just go, oh, left. Oh, what about right? Like,
yes,
always.
For sure.
So the flip of that is like, well, go out, swim out, and come back in, have the fucking sickest time shooting. You've got amazing photographs. Come in and format your memory card.
Yep.
But seriously.
Yeah.
That's the other extreme version of it.
For sure.
I know what I'd rather be doing, keeping my photos and sharing them with people.
Yep, definitely.
So, and the worst thing is I'd kind of rather, like, what are you going to choose? Like, you got three choices. You can format your memory card, you can have the pictures sit and be hidden on your computer, or you can share them.
Yep.
Who's going to format the memory card? Not many people.
Yeah, totally.
Who's going to leave the shit on the computer? A lot of people.
A lot of people, yeah.
Pretty fucking doesn't feel that good. Sharing stuff feels awesome.
Yeah, exactly. With your images, so we've talked a lot about the process of taking them. I'm fascinated by how do you then, like, once you've been out shooting and you've got the images, like, what are you then looking for? How do you pick the ones, or like, how do you pick the three that become a series that you post on your social media? Or how do you pick you know what I mean?
Yeah, sometimes with social media, like I'll just quickly grab 3 shots and
Okay.
I don't really think about
You don't
it.
think about, yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Like they look like they match, so I'll put them up. Like I
Yeah. Yeah.
put little rows,
Mm.
they match. Just
Yeah.
put 'em. And then but for like series and stuff, I don't know, man. It's such choosing what you like is just as subjective as like what you
Yeah.
want to point your camera at, kind of thing. I was literally just before this um chatting to the Guardian about a photo edit of I'm like, I can't pick my photos. Can you help me pick them?
Yeah.
Like, because you it's nice to have bounce stuff off people.
For sure.
Everyone sees everything completely differently, as we
Yeah.
all know,
Yep.
and experiences everything completely differently. So
Yeah.
everyone brings their own experience to the table, life experiences to view through and look at these pictures, and they mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but having said that, like again, being the devil's advocate to myself, like your own personal opinion's just as valid as anyone else's. So
Yep.
just pick what you like.
Yeah, definitely.
Seriously,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
may as well. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
In because you should,
Honestly, like it's so ridiculous.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, well, I've always fascinated by it with like, yeah, when people have like a lot of amazing imagery, that there must also be moments that are just never shown. You know what I mean? Like it's interesting. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah, like Warren connected us, and I imagine like with a lot of like this stuff behind me, like this is Warren's calendar, and it's
yeah,
like when he's shooting stuff like that, there must be 10 other frames that sit there that are probably, you know, most people would dream of having them as a photo,
yeah,
as one
yeah,
photo they've ever taken, and they just exist as the other 9 frames that never make it. And it's just, yeah,
yeah. Like the B-roll stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, everyone's got hard drives full of that stuff.
Mm. On
Um,
that specifically, so you shoot both film and digital.
yeah,
Do you, I guess, like, what's the difference between them? I imagine, like, a common thing with shooting film is probably you have to be a lot more intentional with what you shoot because you don't have, as many frames. So I guess maybe starting with that, just maybe what you find the differences, but then also, do you find that you take that intentionality to your digital photography, or do you look at the digital and say, hey, because I've got kind of, unlimited frames, I can be a bit more creative and loose with my digital and like experiment a bit more, and I can afford to get a lot more like non-keepers because it's, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Mm.
Oh, for sure. I'm
Mm.
definitely in that camp of
Yep.
like I haven't shot a lot of film water photography stuff in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I do, I kind of know what I want to be getting. And yeah, you've got to have its intent and patience and all of that.
Yep.
But yeah, digital's amazing for experimenting. Like
Mm.
you can work through ideas so quickly, it's ridiculous. Like if you
Mm.
compare um testing, like really like not not shooting and knowing what you're gonna get, but if you're really testing and trying new things for yourself, there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing better than digital for instant feedback.
Yeah. Yep.
So having said that, if I want to shoot something on film, maybe I'll go test with digital,
Yep.
get my technique down, whatever. But I just love the aesthetic of film.
Yep.
How maybe it's a particular lens that my film camera might have that behaves
Mm.
differently to my digital one.
Yep.
It just feels nicer with the end result. Like I'll
Mm.
test with digital and then shoot film.
Yeah.
Or like I've done multiple times where I'm shooting a bunch of stuff around Australia or have been for ages. And I've shot digital and film side by side,
Yep.
like exact same thing.
Yep.
Exact.
Mm.
I love the film shot
Yep.
99.99% of the time.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, when they're there and you can see them,
Yeah.
go film.
Go film. Yeah.
if because I don't know what it is, feels a bit more nostalgic or a bit more
Yep.
tangible or something. It sucks me in a bit more.
Yep.
Heaps of people say the same shit.
Mm.
But yeah, if you've got nothing else and a
Yeah.
digital shot's fucking great. Like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, we touched on it briefly, but how's social media like played a role in your career, I guess, as a photographer?
I'm the biggest social media kook in the world. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
When I'll clearly remember, like, I used to use Instagram as like this joke thing that I didn't give a shit about.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, and I'm not putting myself, like, little disclaimer here, I'm not going to name names of who. I watched other photographers' careers accelerate very quickly because they saw the potential in social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I was cynical, and I was like, that shit's for your fucking breakfast. That shit for your, like, photo of shit you found on the path. Or like, I don't know, I just didn't see it for what it could be. And I never really liked, because I came, and I still am a bit of a purist, and I never really jumped on social media like that. So I kind of fucked up in that way. Like, I had an archive of work that would have got well liked, I reckon.
Yeah.
But I just didn't put it on the internet.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm pretty bad at it, to be honest. And I had it, and I don't keep on top of it as much as I should. But it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, because I guess therefore come back because that hasn't really been a factor, right? Because you're a constantly working photographer, so it's not something that's necessarily been needed or required for your career.
No, like,
yeah.
I mean, I'd go away on all these trips with all these really good surfers and chicks and guys all over the world, and I just wouldn't post a thing. Like, I'd come back from months of traveling and stuff and just fly under the radar. Like, and I don't even look at the photos.
Yeah.
I just like doing it, and then hand over the hard drive, and then I keep moving forward. Like, yeah. So I haven't been. So when I say, like, we were talking about sharing and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not. I like to share what I'd like to do. But I haven't been, I could have been a lot better at sharing work consistently and putting it up and doing all the right things to get a following. And
do you feel like potentially maybe though being like your work obviously said like a lot of it comes like in series and it's thought out and you'll have these projects and stuff, so can too much volume like saturate that and take away from it?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I've done a few culls over the years of just like cleaning out my socials, just to kind of clean things up. And because I do, like, I'll just go, have a down day, or meaning like nothing to do that day, and I'll go, oh shit, I should put something up, and then I'll regret it later. So I don't have any freaking marketing plan. like, oh, I need to be this person online, or like.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, definitely. So I guess then maybe just take it all the way back. As I said, I do a bit of like teaching, and I mean, I'm sure that you get a lot of DMs from people. If you're like a person that's just getting into the world of like ocean photography, so forgetting about the future and everything becoming AI, but you want to take photos with your camera, what sort of, from all of the lessons that you've learned like along your journey, like what would you sort of say to someone who's just starting out and wanting to jump in the ocean and take photos?
Just play around and experiment, and don't be scared to fuck up all the time. Take heaps of bad photos. That's all part of it.
Yep.
If you're really just starting out, just learn the coastline and where the sun's coming up, learn light for a start.
Yep.
Like participate in getting out there and doing it, sure, but like be aware of learn when the best times of day are or the best times of year, for the directions of light and whatnot.
Yep.
Get good at reading weather. Yeah, save up for heaps of petrol money.
And I think another thing that I've heard you say that was really that is really like good advice is to just, I guess, like find your own version of it. Like, I guess there's so much stuff for people to consume these days that it's like you don't want to just be going out trying to replicate everything that you're seeing, but like use the inspiration, but to, I guess, create your own spin on it, your own version.
Yeah, that's like that is very true, but fuck, starting out and saying that is gnarly.
Yes.
I find it's really hard to do that. Yeah, no, you're right. But like just a little turn off that is like to make it your own, maybe make it personal. So maybe just start shooting your mates at the beach or your own beach, make an assignment up in your head.
Yeah. Yep. That's cool.
I can't just to practice stuff like, I've got one lens. I can only photograph this beach for 6 months.
Yep.
What am I going to do?
Yeah, love it.
Like what can you create parameters and play around and experiment and take heaps of bad photos, and you'll start getting stuff that you like, or you'll get that excited feeling, and then it feels good and you're like, I want to do that more.
Yeah.
And then just follow that curiosity. I'd say follow your own curiosity, but start it from a personal point of view, and then no one can go, oh, you copied me. Well, everyone's shooting the same shit anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you come at stuff from your own personal motivation, that's a good base to start off, and you'll eventually, after years and years, develop your own style. Or some photographers, like, they're great. I'm not gonna not knocking anyone's off, but they rely heavily on their locations, and that's good. Like maybe your beach or local spot's just insanely photogenic and you don't even know yet.
Yeah.
You don't know how good it could look, and you can make a name for yourself for that. And be really location driven.
Yeah.
You might be technically driven or something. Maybe you got, I don't know.
Yeah.
Find your own little thing.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. No, I really like it. I think that idea of giving yourself some projects and, like you said, challenging yourself with maybe like a single lens, something like that. One of those things that's kind of less around having all the stuff there. It all kind of, gives you an opportunity to be a bit more creative and push yourself to, stand back further, move closer, change angles, that kind of stuff.
yeah, just strip back. Like the less distractions, the better, and you can really hone in on to your ideas.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, amazing, man. I think that's a great place to finish it up. But yeah, just thanks again so much for your time. This has been a fascinating insight. I know people are going to love this. Like all the feedback we've been getting in this series of people who just love to, get behind the photos and see who the person is, what it's all about. So I appreciate you taking the time and, being open with us about all of it. So yeah, thanks again. I really appreciate it, man.
No worries, mate.
Take it easy. Cool. See ya.
Cheers. Bye.